All right, time to go over the second game that I have on my list, which is Alabama versus Miami. Um, Two good teams. One just won a national title last year. Alabama winning another national title, and Nick Saban winning his sixth at Alabama, surpassing Bear Bryant. Miami trying to build back to what they were in the past. I like Manny Diaz. He seems to be a good coach. He knows what he's doing. Um, if I remember correctly, I think he's taking over the defense this year. Um, I don't know how that's going to work because coaches in the past who have tried to take over two jobs, it's worked out for some and some it hasn't. It needs to be see if it's a good fit for him. I mean, normally it's left up to the coordinators for that job, and sometimes the head coaches take the plays and they'll rearrange them or do what they want with them. But normally they leave it up to the coordinators. Instead, Manny Diaz is going to be taking over the defense entirely. I don't think he has a defensive coordinator there. Alabama coming off of another historic season, um, beating Ohio State in the national championship game 52-24, going undefeated 13-0 in a unpredictable season and a season that we didn't think we were going to have. Alabama still found a way to win a title. Um, Nick Saban's still there, so obviously that's gonna automatically give Alabama the advantage here. Um, Something that I do think is going to be a problem for Miami, other than Nick Saban, is Alabama's defense. Defense, they're getting a very experienced defense back. They lost Patrick Surtain in the first round of the NFL draft, but Alabama's defense is going to be one of those defenses we've seen from Nick Saban before, like a good stop in the run passing game that passing stop in the pass that we normally see from Nick Saban, more like that 2009 defense we saw from Nick Saban's Alabama team. Their defense was not that good last year. In 2019, it wasn't good either. Um, I mean, Alabama's defense last year was just good enough to win a game. We saw how they fared against Ole Miss and Florida. They gave up too many points, and they had to rely on their offense to keep them in the game. Miami has, I would say Miami has a good advantage. I don't know if they have the advantage, but they have a good advantage when it comes to, they do have the advantage when it comes to experience with quarterback. They have D'Eriq King, a transfer from Houston. He is the starting quarterback, or should be the starting quarterback at Miami. He got injured last year, and I believe the word is not Manny Diaz. D'Eriq King is going to be the starting quarterback at Miami. He's a good quarterback. He's a very experienced quarterback, and he knows what he's doing. He's a good field general. He's a good leader. He can make plays. He can make things when there's nothing there. He knows how to make nothing into something. So that's good when it comes to what you need to make something out of nothing when it comes to playing Alabama. You need to take advantage of the opportunities that you have. You're not going to get a lot of them. Even though Alabama lost a lot, they had a lot of players taking the NFL draft. They lost their quarterback, Mac Jones, their Heisman winner wide receiver, Devontae Smith. They lost Jalen Waddle. They lost Patrick Surtain. They lost Landon Dickerson, which is one of the leaders on the offensive line. They lost a lot of good players. And that still does not mean Alabama is not tough. Alabama does not rebuild. So when they lose a lot of players, they're not taking a couple years to rebuild. They just reload. We've seen how Nick Saban does when he loses a lot of players. He has like a couple of five. He has like 5 stars and 4 stars in backup, second and third string, 5 stars and 4 stars waiting to just play. And most of the time, when Alabama has these games where they're leading by 40 points, he lets these second, third string players play so they have experience. So when it's time for them to start, they have experience playing already. So it's not their first time stepping on the field playing against the team. Um, so that's one of the advantages Alabama has. Alabama has an advantage overall. Their offense probably not going to be as good this year as it was last year. A historic offense from last year. Probably very similar to the 2019 LSU offense we saw. Just putting up a lot of numbers. Like we saw a couple of 60-point games, 50-point games. I think the lowest that they had last year was 31 points against Notre Dame, which we know how Alabama does in the semifinals. If they find a team that they know can't trade points with them, they just don't use all the ability that they can. They save it for the national title game, unless they have to. Miami, coming off of a good season, a season that was surprising to all. Miami's looking to be back to their 2001 days where they were dominating and they were completely just destroying everybody they played and winning national titles and everything. They're wanting to get back to that. Miami, one of their most remarkable wins last year that I would say was dominating Florida State. Now, Florida State was not a good team last year, but they just destroyed them. They've scored more points than Florida State ever has in the rivalry game. Um, Lost in their bowl game against Oklahoma State in a tight game that I think Miami should have won, but they shot themselves in the foot. But when it comes to this game, it's September 4th. I want to say 4th. It's one of those top games going to be played in the week one of the college football season. Probably second to Clemson and Georgia. Probably I would say second. Um, Alabama has the advantage here because it's Alabama. Miami can pull this upset. They really can. I like Miami. I like their coach. I like their play style. I like how they play. I like their quarterback. Defense needs to get work done. Uh, Miami just is not as good as Alabama. Miami wasn't as good as Clemson last year. So Miami needs to take advantage of every single thing that they get when they play this game. If they don't take advantage of everything that is given to them, like let's say Alabama makes a mistake on defense and somebody's wide open, they need to make sure they don't mess up and miss that throw. They need to make that throw and get the ball to the player that's open. Because if Alabama realizes that, they're not going to make that mistake again. Alabama, Miami needs to take advantage of these opportunities that Alabama may give them, just so they can find a way to win this game. Alabama, we've seen how Nick Saban does when he has weeks to prepare for a game. Um, Last year against Missouri, Duke, Louisville, Florida State. When Nick Saban has weeks and months to prepare for a team, it never ends well. He's always dominated the person he's played. He's always destroyed the player. He's always destroyed the team that he's opening up against. So I really don't see Miami pulling the upset here. Miami could. Don't get me wrong. Miami has the chance to pull the mother of all upsets on this game, and that would boost the morale and boost the momentum Miami has going to the rest of the season. Could end up beating North Carolina and Clemson if they do beat Alabama, but I don't think they will. I can't see Nick Saban losing a week one game. It's not something I could see them losing because Nick Saban is the best coach of college football. He has 7 national titles. He has a lot. He has many conference titles. He's just too good of a coach to not give the advantage here. Like I said, Miami could win this game pretty easily. Alabama has the advantage to winning this game because their offense is good. Their defense is going to be great this year. They get a lot of their defense back. Yes, they lose a lot of their offense, but I mean, they got Bryce Young. They got John Mechie. Uh, I mean, they got Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson's a good player too. John Mechie's a good player. We saw how he played last year. He was great. He was alongside Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. Bryce Young was the top recruit. I think he was the top quarterback and top player recruited last year. So, or the year before. Um, I don't see Alabama losing this game. I see Alabama actually blowing out Miami. This game can be close. This game can really be close. Miami could keep this close. If Miami wants respect, if Miami wants to continue the rest of the season with respect and earn that respect, they need to either beat Alabama, keep it close, or play like they have some pride. Because Miami has this thing where they lose a game and they let that affect them for the next couple of weeks. Like, let's say they lose to Alabama. They might lose to a bad team the next week or like, almost lose to a bad team next week because they were upset about that Alabama loss last year. Or, I mean, last week. Miami needs to not do that. Miami needs to go in there and act like they are Alabama, but have some respect. If you go in there acting like you're the best team of all time, then you're obviously going to lose that game because you have no. You need to be able to go in there, act like you're tough, and be tough, and support that. Alabama can go in there and act like they're Alabama because they are Alabama. They can go in there and act like they are the best team and act like they are extremely tough because they are. When you see Alabama on your schedule, you're like, you do not want to play this team. But Miami is confident enough to think or to know that they can beat Alabama or keep it close. If they get blown out, they're not going to have respect. The next time they're going to come on the national radar is a North Carolina or Clemson game because they're going to play these mediocre ACC teams and they're not going to get national respect. And beating mediocre or and god awful ACC teams is not going to get you into the playoff. If you lose to Alabama by a blowout and you don't and you let's say you lose to Clemson and North Carolina, you're not getting into playoff, you're not getting into the ACC championship game. Let's say you beat Alabama, then obviously you're going to be just early on you're going to be considered for playoff. Like people are going to be talking, can Miami be in the playoff? Alabama's already been talking about probably Alabama's going to be in the playoff next year. Miami, to get respect, needs to keep this game close or beat Alabama or play like they're a good team. If they go out there and let 60 points get dropped on top of them, then no one's going to care about Miami. They're going to think Miami was just the year they had last year was a fluke and it's never going to happen again. And they're just going to drop off the cliff and the program's going to be in the garbage, like Florida State. So my pick is Alabama by a not exactly a full blowout, but it's not going to be close going into the fourth quarter. It might be close in the first and second quarter, but after halftime, Alabama's probably going to pull away. Um, if it is close going into the fourth quarter, then obviously Alabama's going to have all their starters out and they're going to be playing lights out like they're going to win this game. Um, Nick Saban believes fully that a game can be won in the last couple of minutes of each half. So that's when Miami probably needs to play the hardest. If they are keeping it close, that's when they need to play the hardest. It's the last couple of minutes of each half. Because that's when Nick Saban believes a game can be won. Uh, Recruiting's not doing so good for Miami this year, but that could their only focus for recruiting is calling out Florida State for so-called fake momentum when Florida State's doing better than they are. But it's not the end of the recruiting cycle, so Miami might end up being the number one team at the end of the cycle. So, and Florida State might end up being 139th. Um, Alabama's obviously dominated at recruiting, so Alabama has a lot of players that they can put out. A lot of 5 and 4 star players. They just came off the best recruiting class ever last year, a historic class. So they have just a lot of players they can put on the field that are talented and well experienced. So I just cannot go against Alabama and Nick Saban. So my pick is Alabama. Like I said, Miami can easily win this game, but I don't think they will. So my pick is Alabama by a partial blowout. But yeah, that's my pick. Alabama Crimson Tide, the defending national champions, going to be hosting the Miami Hurricanes, hoping to get back to their glory days soon by opening up against probably the number one team in the country, number one, two, three, around that range. So yeah, And I'll see y'all in the next video. I hope y'all enjoyed this one. And let's see how this game goes in week 1.